So, today we continue with Wang Wei's poem, and it will be the turn for Green Creek. But before we start, I would like to make two corrections about a couple of things I said about the previous poems. In Wang Wei's A Farewell, I wasn't sure what the South Mountain to which Menhauran was retiring was. I've read some biographical information, and now I know that South Mountain is the seat, the original place from where Menhauran came in the south of China. So he's going back home. As for Qiwuqian, I think I commented that he lived in the southeastern coast of China. He was from Jiangxi, and that's not correct. I've checked now, and he was really from Hubei, which is in the center south of China, just to the north of the Yangtze River. Let's go then with the third poem, Green Creek by Wang Wei. To reach Chrysanthemum River, it said you must follow Green Creek. Through the mountain's endless twists and turns, the path is only 100 li. There's turmoil in water, crashing over rocks, but stillness deep among the pines. Water plants float, borne by gentle ripples. Young reeds are mirrored where the water's clear. My mind is already still and calm, clear and tranquil as the stream. I think of resting on this boulder, ready with fishing hook and line. Okay, so out of the poems of Wang Wei we've been reading until now, this is probably the one that best fits the expectations about Wang Wei's poetry. So we have a poem whose topic apparently seems to be nature, the description of a lovely place next to a river, the Green Creek. And as we did with the Zhang Zhuling poems, I think we can read this poem in at least two levels. It allows us two levels of interpretation. The literal one, as a description of a wonderful place in which to retire, enjoy your free time, disconnect from the world, and a deeper meaning, which is connected to Wang Wei's strong religious Chan beliefs. Now, before going into detail in this poem, it would be probably useful to introduce Chan Buddhism. So, Chan, better known in the West for its Japanese name, Zen, is one of the most peculiar schools of classical Buddhism. It was the only one that didn't come from India. It was really one of the very few pure Chinese developments of Buddhist thought. Although in the Chan tradition, the founder, Bodhidharma, did come from India, and Bodhidharma's ultimate link with the Buddha was one of the disciples of the Buddha. As we say, Chan was a native Chinese form of Buddhism, which took a lot from Chinese religious traditions, basically from Taoism. Now, the word Chan comes from the Sanskrit word dhyana, which means meditation, and that points us towards the most typical practice of Chan Buddhism. But what is most characteristically of Chan Buddhism is not meditation as such. It's rather a certain, we could say, iconoclastic attitude towards enlightenment. In the Chan tradition, there is a belief that sudden enlightenment is possible, sudden and immediate enlightenment, and there are various heterodox techniques for achieving this, as opposed to old previous Buddhist schools, which tended to emphasize studying and understanding the Buddhist scriptures or developing esoteric practices. Chan adepts will search for enlightenment through meditation, of course, but also through other practices. Among them, you have, for example, the koans, so breaking the logical patterns of thought as they are crystallized in everyday language and thought through new ways of looking at things, shocking expressions, shocking sentences, images that force your mind to break out of its everyday confines. Also, paradoxically, the everyday life and work are also one of the main paths in Chan Buddhism to enlightenment. So doing everyday things like cleaning the toilet, working in the fields, you can achieve enlightenment through those daily activities. And this is emphasized, this we could say, non-rational, intuitionist, sudden enlightenment perspective. We can connect it with as we said, with Taoism. And there's a famous saying in the Chan tradition. It goes something like, "If the Buddha blocks your path, kill the Buddha. If the priests block your path, kill the priests." So it's the idea of, don't subject yourself to traditions or prejudices or texts. You need to really live the experience of enlightenment, and you need to strive to achieve that illumination without constraining yourself with any prejudices. So, having said that, let's go on to this poem, Green Creek. As we said, there are two levels of reading, and the first one is pretty standard. A paraphrase of the poem is that there is probably Wang Wei's poetic persona who is saying that if you want to reach the Chrysanthemum River, it's not explained what this Chrysanthemum River is, perhaps because chrysanthemums are associated with longevity, so it could be achieving immortality or a place away from the world. So to reach this, you have to follow the Green Creek. And it's a path this rivulet crosses the mountains with endless twists and turns. The first stanza of the poem, you could say, introduces this goal, and this path. So lots of the images in this stanza are related to movement, to progression, to movement. So we want to reach that river, you must follow another river, you must go through twists and turns, and you must follow a path. Now the second stanza presents you the natural beauties of the Green Creek through a series of contrastative parallel couplets. So this is a place with turmoil and stillness. It has both in it. The turmoil is that of the water crashing on the rocks. The stillness is the silence that you have amidst the pines next to the river. And you have lots of plants, water plants that are shaken lightly, and reeds that are mirrored on the water. Finally, the last stanza takes us to the poetic persona himself and to how he is feeling. And he tells us that he is in a state of absolute peace of mind. The adjectives still, calm, clear, tranquil. The mind is one with the stream, and the poet is relaxed and enjoys resting on a big rock, and he is with his fishing hook and line ready to fish. So as I said, some of the symbols connect to, very traditional Chinese motifs. So for example, the idea of the fisherman, of the scholar as a fisherman, connects with the Taoist tradition and with the songs of the South, the Chuzhu, where one of the poems is called The Fisherman, and it's about this fisherman who gives sound, commonsensical advice to the too idealistic poet. And he's a down-to-earth person who knows the truth. A lot of Taoist narratives contain this image. It's not the schooled one, the scholar, the learned man who knows the truth. It's the simple person, the peasant, the wheelwright, the person without any education, because he's connected with his real nature and not with the false academic layers of knowledge, presumed knowledge. The Chrysanthemum River makes me think of Tao Chien, which probably was a very big influence on Wang Wei as the founder of the poetry of countryside and of retirement. And Tao Chien has a poem called Apricot Blossom Spring, or I think, or not apricot. Well, it was Peach Blossom Spring, sorry. And in Peach Blossom Spring, a sage, it's not a sage, a scholar, which is the alter ego of Tao Chien, encounters a spring full of fallen blossoms. He follows it and he reaches a cave where people have taken refuge hundreds of years ago and live in an almost paradisiacal place without death or without suffering, and with prosperity and happiness for all. So maybe this Chrysanthemum River evocates a similar place, a place where you can escape from the evils of the world and its dangers. Now, what would be the other reading of this? As we said, Wang Wei was a Buddhist, a Chan Buddhist, 10 years of schooling under under a priest. And we could see this voyage to the Green Creek as the journey towards enlightenment, and this natural locus amoenus as a stand-in for Buddhist illumination. So the path is difficult, but it's close by. You know, these paradoxes are typical of Taoist thought, but also of Buddhist Chan thought. You know, the path to enlightenment, like this path to the Chrysanthemum River, has endless twists and turns, but is only 100 li away. So it's far, but it's close, really. And once you really achieve enlightenment, you become aware that the phenomenal world and nirvana are really one, and that your limited perception and knowledge is the one that stopped you from perceiving the immediacy of nirvana inside, embedded inside the phenomenal world, including the phenomenal world of nature, which is here described so lovingly. So it's a world where turmoil and stillness can live face to face, side by side. Perhaps the water plants and the young reeds represent the people who strive towards enlightenment, who move along the river, who are mirrored in its waters. Anyway, the poet in the last stanza seems to have achieved enlightenment. His mind is still and calm, clear and tranquil as the stream. So he has achieved illumination, that inner peace, that extinction of the desires, which leads to what the Buddhists believe is the ideal state, nirvana. Yeah? And in the last line, this nirvana is represented with a mundane image of the fisherman relaxed and without any worries, resting on the boulder with his fishing hook and line ready. So perhaps it's taking it a bit far, but I believe that, you know, both levels of interpretation are probably warranted to really enjoy and to really understand this poem. And that's all for today. We will continue tomorrow with yet another poem by Wang Wei.